have a client recently, she went to Planned Parenthood, had an ultrasound there. They told her she was 2 weeks. I've never heard of anyone being diagnosed at 2 weeks with a pregnancy, and that the baby wouldn't have a heartbeat. She came into my clinic 2 days later. She's at 6 weeks. The baby clearly has a heartbeat. You could see the little arm buds and little leg buds on there. Wow. And she's like, that's actually a baby.
Well, good morning, Castleview. Good to have you here this morning on the Castleview Baptist Podcast. I've got a guest with us this morning that I've wanted to sit down with for quite some time. Her name is Chelsea Mynyk, and she is a member. She and her family are members of our church, and they have a real burden for life. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that. The reason we're doing this week, I've been wanting to have a conversation with her about this topic, but this weekend at our church, we've got Mission Sunday, and we've got a couple of different families in our church involved in ministries that we want to highlight. So I wanted to give you a chance today to be able to hear about her and her ministry and what her family's involved in. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here with us today. And let me just ask you this first. How did you get involved in this clinic? By the way, the name of it is the Castle Rock Women's Health Clinic. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. How'd you get started with this?
That's a great question. My burden was when I was 2 years old, and I got to be a part of my youngest sister's pregnancy care. When my mom was pregnant with her, the midwife allowed me to listen to her heartbeat. And wow. I knew then that I wanted to do that when I grew up.
Really? Just as a little girl?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that burden just grew. When I was a teenager, I got involved with pro-life work, sidewalk counseling, talking with young women about that decision that they're about to make.
Sidewalk counseling, what is that?
So it can look different in different areas. So we'd go outside like Planned Parenthood and talk with women that were walking in to have an abortion. Wow. And we'd have conversations. You only had 30 to 60 seconds to talk to them about possibly considering a different choice. We would go to high schools and have teaching boards and colleges and engage in conversations with young people about what does this look like and how will that affect you?
Very interesting. You know, you just said something I think is really key with that. Engage in conversations.
Yes.
We're living right now in the soundbite era that anybody that has a microphone can say what they want. And it just feels like there's so much conflict, right? Everything you see on social media is people yelling at each other and really nothing is happening. There's no value that comes from it. You didn't persuade them. They didn't persuade you. I think that's really important. Conversation about something. Yeah. So that's what you did.
Yeah. And then it just continued to grow. And once my husband and I were expecting our second baby, we kind of faced our own challenges because we had some issues in our pregnancy where we didn't think he was going to make it several times. We call him our little miracle baby because of that.
This is Brody?
Yes, yeah. Brody. So our first encounter was at 8 weeks, and our doctor said he probably has Down syndrome. You need to have an abortion because that will be the easiest thing for you and for the baby. And she said that several times in our appointment, and my husband and I left. We're like, what just happened?
Wow.
Like, we are strong Christians. We know we would not have an abortion, but you felt pressured, and you felt like that was the best decision possibly. And I mean, thankfully, the Lord kept convicting us like, no, that's not right. You need to stick with what you know best, and life is valuable. Then again, at 20 weeks, we had the same conversation where the doctor came in. She's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure your baby has Down syndrome. You need to have the abortion now because the earlier, the better. And then she said, by the way, you're having a boy. And what just happened? Like, wow. You're telling us to kill our baby, but also like, oh, you're having a boy. Wow. It felt so like such a dichotomy. And we left that and we're like, this is crazy. We're not going to
Did you feel like the reason she was pushing that direction was just kind of a convenience factor for you? Like your life is going to be different, changed, difficult. If this baby has Down syndrome, this is a real inconvenience. Is that the angle that she was coming from?
Yeah, I mean, they think of it as inconvenience on both sides. It's inconvenience because now we have a baby in society that's going to be more of a burden on society. That's how they view a lot of children, they're a burden. And we view that differently, that children are a blessing. And I think, yeah, the other piece too, that she thought that would affect me and affect our family if they were born with something. But thankfully, he was born without Down syndrome. And I mean, he had his own health challenges, of course, but we're so thankful that he is here, and we know God has big plans for him.
Can you imagine your life without Brody now?
Oh my goodness, no. He is so funny. He loves telling jokes, and he's one of those, like, we tease him. He's just so hardcore about stuff.
Sure.
Like, oh my goodness, you will laugh at someone dying, basically. I'm like, oh my.
So this would have been about, when did you start the clinic? Are we, what, 7-8 years in?
So we opened our doors in 2020.
Was it in 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, we opened at Castle Rock Women's Health, and that's Brody's story is what influenced me to, yes, I need to do this.
We need to get this started. Okay.
And when we opened in 2020, we had one patient that year because of COVID. And It was a little off that year. And then the following year, we ended up at 3 patients. And then the next year was 5. And now we are almost 400 patients in our database.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes.
And so what are you doing with these? You are one of the only clinics, for a long time you've been saying one of only 3 in Colorado that's able to give the anti-abortion pill. And that's changed.
Yes.
How many are there now?
So in 2023, Governor Polis signed a bill prohibiting the use of progesterone to help reverse the abortion pill. And with that law in place, then Bella Health and Wellness filed a lawsuit against the state, saying that this goes against our religious beliefs. And then following that, I thought when they filed the lawsuit that it covered all of Colorado providers because they did get an injunction that they were allowed to continue to practice. Well, find out later, because I had a complaint against my license that I was providing it, that it did not cover all the providers. It only covered them. So Alliance Defending Freedom came alongside me and helped me file a lawsuit and get an injunction so I could continue offering it. We just had our final ruling from the federal judge here in Colorado in August, and he said that we were going to be allowed to continue to practice this. But it only applies to Bella Health and Wellness and myself. So there's only 2 of us in Colorado that are allowed to offer this. And sometimes I get calls for women that want to reverse this all the way down to Buena Vista. So it's a 5-hour drive.
Wow, to be able to get here.
Them.
There's just not access to it. There's 2 places in all of Colorado.
Yes.
And walk us through that. What does that mean? An anti-abortion pill. What does that mean? What state is a woman in? Where are they at this point?
Sure. So to understand, we'll have to talk a little bit about what the abortion pill is. So a lot of times you can get the abortion pill by mail. You just order it online. You don't have to see a doctor. You can take it up till 10 weeks in pregnancy. Some places will even give it to you after 10 weeks. But the FDA says up to 10 weeks. So a woman takes, there's 2 drugs.
If this isn't regulated,
I know.
That's a suggestion at that point. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because they don't know how far along they are. They have not had any ultrasounds. A lot of women don't understand when they possibly conceived.
Okay.
And
so, what does that abortion pill do?
Yeah. So it's 2 drugs. So the first drug, mifepristone, it blocks progesterone in pregnancy. And progesterone is what's needed for the baby to survive. So without progesterone, the baby dies. The second drug is misoprostol. That induces contractions. So now the mom will expel a dead baby. So with abortion pill reversal, which we don't really like the term reversal, we're not actually reversing the effects of it. We're giving them natural progesterone that we give to moms all the time to help support hormones, to help prevent miscarriage. So we give that to combat the effects of mifepristone. And within 72 hours of them taking mifepristone, we have a 64 to 68% chance of that baby surviving.
Wow. Within 3 days, you've got a 64 to 68% chance of them surviving. That's amazing. Yeah. So let me ask you this. I mean, they're within 3 days. If they're going to contact you and have time, they're contacting you probably within 24 hours, 36 hours most of the time. What
Even
causes
shorter.
even shorter than that? So okay, so just a few hours. Okay,
Yes.
so what causes that? Is that a mother that takes this pill and just immediately realizes this was not right?
Yes. Yeah. Which is interesting. Pro-abortion advocates say that women don't regret their abortions, but that is the most common thing I hear from these women. I regret that I took that. Please help me save my baby. I just felt overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. I made a mistake. Please help me.
Pressures from maybe a father that's not involved or not thinking right, or just family pressures.
Yeah. A lot of times we see her parents say, "You're too young to have a baby," even though she's 21 years old. Or, the boyfriend's pressuring her. I had one case where the abortion actually was successful because her boyfriend gave her the second dose of the Cytotec, the misoprostol. Even when she was trying to reverse it, he slipped in that second pill, so it made her have her abortion. So you see all sorts of sad stories and just heartbreak in this situation.
Wow. So you're able to what would you call it then? If you don't like the term, because I want to call it the right thing.
Yeah.
I've called it the anti-abortion, or maybe the abortion pill reversal. What do you call it?
So I say that it's progesterone support in pregnancy after taking mifepristone.
Okay.
It's a lot longer to say.
It's progesterone support, though. I can remember that
Yeah.
part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And progesterone is that natural, that's what your body produces.
Yes.
You're not giving them any medication outside of just what they've started blocking, right? I mean, you're giving them kind of a progesterone booster.
Yeah.
Is that right? To be
Yeah.
able to get everything functioning the way it's supposed to again? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
This issue, to me, Chelsea, has three major questions that people really struggle with. And when you talk to people on either side of this debate, one of the big question is, well, we don't know when life begins. And so therefore, if it's just a clump of cells, if it's just a fetus, if it's just, this mass in this woman's body right now, what's the big deal? Can you answer that question for us? Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
If someone were to say to you, well, we don't even know when life begins, or how would you answer that question? When do you believe life begins?
Sure. So I love this question. I work with a lot of students from different colleges and training them in their nursing career. And this is one of the first questions we address. When does life begin? Because if you don't have that foundation, then you are going to waffle on a lot of things in women's healthcare. So we start with that. And actually, we have a lot of evidence from God's word and also from science that life begins at conception. At the moment the sperm penetrates the ova, life begins. There's even videos that you can watch on YouTube where it shows there's a chemical reaction that happens once that sperm penetrates, and it looks like this burst of light, and it's so amazing. It's like out of the darkness, like all of a sudden there's this brightness of light, and life begins.
Wow.
And it just kind of emphasizes what God says in His Word, that we were knitted together in the womb. And I think there's like several verses that we can go to and point that, we are image bearers of God. That's another huge piece too. And then I actually like what you say in your sermons a lot. And I'll bring this up with students as well. But even if there was any doubt, we want to err on the side of life.
Yeah, that's right.
That is the most important piece. And that's why we consider our clinic life affirming. So that means whenever life is in question, we're going to err on the side of life, and we're going to affirm life, because these are image bearers of God that we're talking about. It's not just a clump of cells. It's not just some blob of tissue.
Yes.
This is actual human being made in the image of God. So we have to protect that.
So let me emphasize what you just said, because I couldn't agree more with what you just said. First of all, Jeremiah tells us that God had a plan. He was involved before Jeremiah was even in the womb. Okay. If there's a question about when life starts, and by the way, science is questioning that fewer and fewer times now. Now science actually backs up that no, when you talked about the moment of conception, this is when life begins. Scientifically, that is becoming the norm. Used to be a little bit more of a question mark. It's not so much anymore. But if there is a question when life begins, shouldn't life always be given the benefit of the doubt? If we believe that this could be a child, then wouldn't you say, well, I would always want to make sure that I erred on the side of life? So I think that's the first thing that we have to answer is, okay, well, when does life begin? Science generally now tells us it is at conception. That moment is when it takes place. And the Bible tells us that even before you were in the womb, I knew you, I had plans for you, I prepared you, you said it, I knitted you together in your mother's womb. So yeah, there's Bible backing for that, but even if you're not a Bible believer, there is scientific backing for that now as well. So I think that's a huge piece of it is life should always be given the benefit of the doubt. The second question that I think probably comes up as much as anything else is this phrase that we hear all the time now, and that is, my body, my choice. How would you answer that?
Yeah. So again, you can go with different perspectives for this. One of my favorite ones is going with that the baby is a separate entity. Like it's residing in the womb and it needs the womb for survival at that point, but it's separate from the mom still. Like it has its own DNA. The baby has its own fingerprints. The baby, if it's a mom carrying a baby boy, like the baby boy has its own gender. So there's different pieces that make the baby separate. Same with if the baby is born outside of the womb, the baby is still dependent on the mom for survival. The baby needs to be fed. The baby needs to be changed. The baby needs to be held.
Yeah.
So dependency doesn't define if the baby should be discarded or not.
Sure.
And
in other words, just because a toddler needs you, a toddler's not going to make it on their own. I mean, a toddler left to himself is not, quote unquote, viable from a sense that, okay, they're not going to be able to provide for themselves. That toddler will die. But any, and I think it's safe to say that the majority of the world would say it would be wrong to kill a toddler. That would be murder. We're saying that okay, viability is not justification for killing a baby in the womb.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's lots of different arguments you can go with that. Is it location? Because they're inside the womb, all of a sudden you have the right to choose to kill that baby versus outside of the womb. Size, level of dependency, and environment. So it's the acronym is SLED. Scott Klusendorf does a great job of going through that for people that want to learn a little bit more about like the pro-life, pro-choice arguments and stuff. I like to say pro-abortion versus pro-choice because I am actually pro-choice, like not to choose to kill your baby, but you do have choices. And one of those choices is adoption. And a lot of people think that that's the worst thing they could do is to consider adoption because somehow they're giving up their child. So we have a lot of conversations with families about what adoption can actually look like. And you can just come alongside the parents that are adopting your baby. And it's like kind of having extra help on hand. You don't have all that responsibility, but you still get to be involved. It's something really beautiful that God has designed to have that community come beside you. So that's another choice that's out there, too.
I love that. We have a couple families in our church right now that just over the last year have adopted. And beautiful stories. I mean, both families I'm thinking of right now have several other children. And so they've brought these adopted children to their homes, and these other kids have rallied around them and love them and are really giving them an opportunity to just have a really incredible loved life. And I've enjoyed seeing it. The families, I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of responsibility. It's not easy to bring someone in your home. But I love to see the picture of adoption, right? I mean, that's what, as believers, we feel like we are. We believe we've been adopted into the family of God. I mean, we were outside of, and we were hopeless, and all of these things, and Jesus, through his death on the cross, adopted us into the family of God. And it's a beautiful picture of what the gospel is for us. So I love that that is an option. We ought to be thinking about that as well. And I think probably more Christians should be considering adoption. Like if we're really pro-life and this is a big deal for us, well, we ought to be considering, well, is there room in our house to be able to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So adoption would be something I think we ought to consider for sure. I would say when it comes to my body, my choice, that argument, I would say that any civilized society regularly restricts choices. Right. Well, you can't tell me what to do with my body. Well, we do regularly. You can't drink and drive because you're going to put somebody else at risk. When I was growing up, and Chelsea, you'll probably remember this too, you'd go to a restaurant and they had smoking or non-smoking sections, right? And, if you were going to smoke, you couldn't sit in this area because you were going to affect somebody else. I've got an HOA, I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
And they tell me I can't paint my house a certain color. I can't park a broken down car out on the yard, and the reason for that is because I'm going to affect other people's home values in my area. And the idea there is, okay, you can do what you want, yes, until you are affecting somebody else. And we're talking about, yes, I understand that mom is that incubator, and I understand that baby is reliant upon the mom, but those are two very different bodies. You said it a minute ago, own DNA, own fingerprints, own gender, own purposes by God. I mean, you've got all of this. This is a separate entity that is in your body. It is in your body. You're the incubator, but this isn't you, right? So we would say, yes, your body is the incubator of it, but this is not your body. So, and by the way, when I think our church helped you when you got started with an ultrasound.
Yes.
Do you feel like the ultrasound has helped ladies as they get to see it?
Oh my goodness. I do so many ultrasounds. It's crazy.
Really?
Ultrasounds, I call it's the window to the womb. It's just our peek inside what God is masterfully making in there.
Yeah.
And it's something so beautiful. We always see the mom, and a lot of times the dad is there with her. Yeah. And so it's amazing to watch them all of a sudden see, that's my baby in there. Wow. It has arms and legs. It isn't a clump of cells like we've been told. Yeah. I have a client recently, she went to Planned Parenthood, had an ultrasound there. They told her she was 2 weeks. I've never heard of anyone being diagnosed at 2 weeks with a pregnancy, and that the baby wouldn't have a heartbeat. She came into my clinic 2 days later. She's at 6 weeks. The baby clearly has a heartbeat. You could see the little arm buds and little leg buds on there. Wow. And she's like, that's actually a baby. Yeah. I'm like, yes.
Changes the way they see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they're getting fed all these lies. And I feel like the ultrasound is just that picture that shows, and it really dispels those lies that they're being fed. That's
Chelsea, what is the motivation for doctors or people to be so against life in the sense that they would encourage? I've heard, I can't tell you how many times since I've spoken about this issue that women, just like you said a minute ago, have come and said, boy, my doctor was just against this from the very get-go. I just felt like they were negative about keeping this baby. Where does that come from?
Again, I think it comes back to that foundation. Like, what are your core beliefs? If you believe that all life comes from God, we're image bearers, that's going to give you a different perspective on how we treat our patients. And so that's why I'm so passionate about teaching students too, and teaching them that there's a different way we can practice medicine. We don't have to come from this perspective that life doesn't matter. Life is can be disregarded. It can be thrown away. When I was getting my nurse practitioner degree, so this was about 8 years ago now, our class was applauding the fact that in Colorado, we have the highest rates of IUDs. So it's a type of birth control that goes inside the uterus. We have the highest rate of IUDs in 11-year-old girls. Mm. That is crazy. Mm. So their next goal is to get IUDs in 9-year-old girls. Wow. These are things that you don't need parental consent for. Mm. They can get them at the school. Planned Parenthood has access to schools to get these into girls. Mm. And they're just so against anyone getting pregnant that they are pushing things like this. Girls die from IUDs. Mm. This is not something that you just want to have anyone and everyone having, and at such a young age too. Mm. So you just see this culture of really pro-death. And even like Colorado is one of the most pro-death states we could live in. We have late-term abortionists here. They're just opening a new late-term abortion clinic because our old late-term abortionist, Warren Hearn, that lived in Boulder, has retired. He, over a year of about 4 years, he performed over 1,000 late-term abortions. So I think their estimate was over 28 weeks. So a baby that could survive outside the womb. He performed over 1,000 of them. Only 1/5 of those were due to some sort of genetic or something going on with the baby. Most of those were on perfectly healthy babies that could have survived. Colorado has passed laws that they protect abortionists. So an abortion doctor recently moved to Pueblo, Colorado, that killed a woman during an abortion procedure. But here in Colorado, he's protected. He won't lose his license. He won't be investigated. He can still continue to practice this. And yeah, I'm the one being investigated because I'm trying to save life.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just the world we're living in right now, right? That yes. Truth is just twisted, and we're living in this generation that we want people to express themselves, and you have no right. There's no moral authority. When we first moved to Castle Rock, I remember that Bill O'Reilly had just done an expose on the school systems in Boulder, Colorado. And they had just brought together all of the high schools and middle schools. And they were teaching the high school students and the middle school students there about birth control and encouraging them not toward abstinence. They were encouraging them to experiment. And it wasn't just experimentation between boys and girls. Yeah. They encouraged them at that time to experiment between boys and boys and girls, and you don't really know who you are. And this was the school system there, right? And so Bill O'Reilly had this thing on going, where are we at? And this is in 2008. Where are we at as a country for this to be happening? And so we're definitely living in a time, and the reason we're having this conversation is because we want our church to know, and our people that listen to this to know what the arguments are, how to answer some of those arguments, and really the truth about what's going on. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to the last one. And so we talked about when does life begin is a major one that we've got to be able to answer that. Mm-hmm. And life should always get the benefit of the doubt. We talked about shouldn't a woman have the right to choose? My body, my choice. Well, civilized society regularly restricts choices, right? And then the last one is, what about the hard cases, right? Because there are some. And by the way, as a Jesus follower, he was full of grace and truth, right? Paul told us that we're to speak the truth, but in love, right? So we're not supposed to be, you said engage in conversation earlier when you'd go and talk with people. It's not a shouting match. Right. We don't hate people that are on the fence about this. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if anyone's watching this right now or listening and you've had an abortion, our heart goes out to you. We're not judging you. We're not trying to heap guilt on you. We want to help people understand all sides of this issue. You went through it with Brody. the doctor telling you, listen, we think it's going to be Down syndrome, and so therefore we think the best route to take would be abortion. What would you say about the hard cases, right? Somebody's going through this where the doctor says, hey, the child's going to have a cleft lip, the child's going to have Down syndrome, the child's going to have this, whatever issue it is. What do you say to that person that struggles with that?
Yeah. So I think, going again back to our core values, that life begins at conception, for one, and that the baby has the image of God. So we're not going to just take that life, I think. So defining abortion is probably good to insert here. So abortion is the intentional taking of that life. Now, sometimes in the hard cases, for example, an ectopic pregnancy, the mom's life can be at risk with that. If the ectopic pregnancy continues to grow and the fallopian tube ruptures, then she could die. So in an ectopic pregnancy, we have to remove the baby. Most of the time, the baby's already dead because it can't survive outside that womb. It doesn't have enough oxygen or nutrients. But the sac itself can continue to grow, and that's where it becomes more dangerous for the mom. So a lot of times you're removing an actually dead baby at that point. Sometimes the baby can still have a little bit of a heartbeat. They don't have the technology to transport the baby from the fallopian tubes into the uterus right now. I know they're trying to work on that, and that would be amazing. Yeah. But sometimes in the process, life is lost. And that's just a reality of the fallen nature we live in. But our intention isn't to go in and destroy that life. And so that's like the difference between what an abortion is doing and what we do in those harder cases. So in a hard case, our intention isn't to, if there's cleft palate, we're not going to go in there and intentionally kill that baby. There's surgical procedures we can do to help correct that. I have a mom that sadly decided to have an abortion. She just felt her culture was like, you can't have any defects in the family. And that culture influenced her to decide to have an abortion because her baby is going to be born with low testosterone levels. And the treatment for that is giving them some extra testosterone. So we see different scenarios where the parents, I think, like our big thing is you see a lot of women just feel pressured. And whether, I know we talked about this earlier, whether it's for family members, but a lot of times it's from medical people. And we're pressuring them to feel like that's the only choice you have is to kill your baby. And that's
we totally see the value of life in the wrong way, right? Your value is how you look. Your value is in how athletic you are, how strong you are, how smart you are. And the Bible says that our value actually comes because we're image bearers of God, right? So our value is not because of anything that we've done. Hey, I'm more valuable to God because I do whatever, right? No. I'm valuable because God gave me value, right? So that's a really sad way that we look at it and look in this Instagram world we're living in right now, that everything has got to look just right on the outside. What about the hard case of rape? Because that's got to be, I think about that and I think, boy, what a challenging thing for someone to go through. You had this trauma that took place and boy, this is going to be hard. Here's a reminder of this what would you say to someone that is struggling with that?
Yeah, so we've worked with a lot of women that come from situations like that. So first of all, rape is horrible. That is something that is going to cause trauma. Yeah. Now, setting that piece aside, actually about less than 1% of abortions are due to rape. Yeah. And it's actually really uncommon for women to conceive out of rape as well. There's actually a protective system that God's put into place to prevent them from ovulating under high stress like that, which I think is something amazing. Yeah. But if they get pregnant out of rape or even incest, we don't want to add the additional burden of having an abortion because we know that abortion itself can cause depression, it can cause suicide, it can cause a lot of health problems. So we don't want to add that on top of the trauma that they're already dealing with from that rape or that incest.
So you're saying they're not actually getting help. It's not removing the trauma. Adding a second trauma isn't removing the first trauma.
Yeah.
I had a woman in our church a few years ago come to me and explain a situation that was similar to this that you're describing right now. And she said, the thing that just really sits on me still, I'm haunted by the abortion. I mean, the actual trauma that took place was horrible.
Yeah.
But the abortion didn't take that away. The family forced me to have an abortion, and it haunts me to this day.
Yeah. So I think something that's really amazing that God left for us, every time we're pregnant, and a little bit of the baby's DNA will mix with ours. So a little bit of their blood mixes with ours. So we can do like genetic screening early on. We can find out what the gender is early on just from a blood sample from mom. So an amazing piece of that is that any baby you've had, whether you got to deliver the baby, whether it was a miscarriage, whether it was an abortion, a little piece of that baby is always with you because a little bit of their blood is in you all the time. So I think that's like a deeper level of what you can picture why women struggle with abortion so much, because it goes all the way to the core of who you are. Like it's part of you.
Wow.
And that is one of our hearts too, is helping women with pregnancy loss, because that's something that is dismissed often. We see a lot of women that had an abortion when they were a teenager. Now they're going through menopause, and all of a sudden all that guilt and shame is starting to come up, and we help them work through that and help them see like God's forgiveness and his grace through that, and just the beauty that he can bring from that.
Wow. Okay, so let me make this personal. You have daughters. One of your 16-year-old daughters, let's say, one day comes to you and says, Mom, I'm pregnant and I'm scared. And she's considering having an abortion. What do you tell her? This is a real life scenario that could be happening out there. People are going through this. What do you say to your daughter that's going through something like this?
So first of all, I'm going to tell her, thank you for coming to me and telling me this. That's really brave of you. I think that's one of the hard pieces when you're considering abortion, is that you want to hide. You feel shame, you feel guilt for what has happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, even now with our kids, even though they're young, we always talk to them like, if you come across pornography or if you see something you're not supposed to, come to us, because the worst thing you can do is try and hide it or run from it. I would tell her, like, thank you for coming to me and telling me this. That was really brave of you. We're going to get through this. God's going to help us get through this. And that life inside of you has a plan. That baby has a purpose, and we're going to help you. Like, we're here for you. And I think working with so many different women, when they don't have that family support, I'm going to try not to cry. So often we see parents are the big stumbling block for their children, and they say you have to have an abortion. And I think as parents, like, we cannot be that stumbling block for them. We have to show them that grace and that love and be there for them. Because now, I mean, I have a mom that just had an abortion because her parents said, you have college to get through. You're 21, you're too young to have this baby. And she had an abortion. I'm like, her life could have been so different. It could have been such a blessing.
I think that's a great word to parents. They need support, not shame. I think sometimes a parent is almost projecting their embarrassment. It's more about the parents sometimes than it is about. And then I think there's another side of it, that I have so many hopes and dreams for you, and so I don't want you to have to go through this, and so we respond in anger, and why did you do this? And listen, they're there. Here's where we're at. I think what you just said was perfect. Hey, thank you for coming to me. We're going to get through this together. Let me help you. I think you've got to start working with your kids at a young age with that, right? When it's small things,
Yes.
they saw the wrong thing, they said the wrong thing, they witnessed something, and you don't freak out on them and you don't lose your temper and lose control because you're teaching them to go underground at that point. And you don't want them to go underground.
Yeah.
You want to be able to rationally and honestly be able to look at them and say, thank you for doing it. You did the right thing. Now let's start working through this. You're kind of conditioning them that no matter what they go through, you're a safe place.
Yes.
You're going to give them truth. You're going to help them. You're going to support them no matter what. But you are a safe place that they can go to. So I think that was a really good word for people that are listening right now. If somebody were going through this right now, Chelsea, they're struggling with a decision. Where do they get help? Who do they reach out to? What can they do?
Yeah. So I'd say for the abortion pill piece, if you've taken the abortion pill, researching abortion pill reversal hotline, that will give you the number. The hotline nurse will get you in touch with a provider that's close to where you live. We've just reached over 7,000 babies that have been saved from doing progesterone support now. And that's just within the last 5 years that we've hit. Like we've gone 10 times as high as what it was when we first started. It was 750 patients were born.
Wow.
Babies were born. So there's that option. And if you're struggling just in general with options, like what do I do? I'm pregnant, I'm scared. Reaching out to pregnancy centers is an option. Our clinic as well, our website to reach out to is crwomenshealth.com. And that's a source too. Our services are free. So anyone that comes to us, we don't charge anything. Lab work does have a fee to it, so we try and help. I do take insurance for that piece of it. If someone is really struggling, we try and find funds to help cover that cost. And we go even beyond just medical services. So we do prenatal care, women's health care, pregnancy support. But sometimes, like, we gave our van away to a family because they needed a van. Sometimes people just need groceries. They can't afford groceries that week. So we'll go upstairs and go grocery shopping in my kitchen. And so it's not just that medical side of it, but we're there for them in whatever they need. And I feel like that's how God was. That's how Jesus came and witnessed to people.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how much I respect you and Daniel and your family for doing that. I knew about your van. I know about the groceries. I know not long ago you were watching a child to help a family go through things. And I really respect what you're doing. Our church is excited to be a part of it and just to watch. Many of these things you've done have come out of your own pocket. You know, this isn't something that you're not asking them to come in and pay for these services. Much of this has come from your own pocket. And that's the reason that I wanted to highlight you to our church this weekend also, because our church wants to be a part of this. I mean, I think you would be the first to say, what an amazing blessing. I'm glad we get to do it. But you could do more if you had the resources to be able to do more. So Chelsea, thank you for being here today, and just love you and your family, and pray for you on a regular basis and what God is doing through you and your family there at the clinic. And church, we're excited about presenting them this weekend for our church support. And I know of several things that they've done. And I know there's a lot of things I have no idea about what they do and how they reach out to people. I know people that have trusted Christ because of the influence they've had on people's lives. And so I think this will be a really, really interesting and important piece for our church to be able to be involved in. We say we're pro-life. We're behind it. We say we want to be a part of it. This is a great opportunity for us to actually do what we say that we believe we do. So make sure you're there Sunday. Sunday evening, she'll be presenting a little bit more about what they do and how they do it. And so you want to be there at 6 o'clock this Sunday evening. Hey, thank you for watching this episode of the Castleview Baptist podcast. We will see you again next week.